Like a Dragon 8 is a triumphant entry into Kasuga and Kiryu's story, and probably the greatest game in the entire series. It makes for an excellent next adventure for Ichiban and a final outing for the famed Dragon of Dojima. The narrative weaves together an engaging story that provides a satisfying conclusion to Kiryu's story, something that had upset many fans, myself included, when Kiryu died at the end of Yakuza 6. As for Ichiban, it is another entertaining romp throughout Japan and Hawaii in the search for his mother. When it comes to epic JRPGs like this, it can be difficult to pinpoint a place to start for your review, so I'm going to be starting with the story. The story in this game is fantastic. As with every Ryuga Gotoku game, you know what you're getting yourself into. Sweeping stories, very serious discussions and monologues, long story segments, batshit wild sub-stories, lots of heart and emotion, and insane action. What's amazing about Infinite Wealth is how it serves as a sequel to multiple games. It's a direct follow-up to Like a Dragon 7, and it's also a sequel to Gaiden, The Man Who Changed His Name, and also being a continuation of the overarching Yakuza Ryuga Gotoku stories that started way back in the original Kiwami and Zero. The game follows Kasuga, who finds himself unemployed at Hello Work, helping other ex-Yakuza members find work after the great dissolution from the previous game. Unbeknownst to Kasuga, he's being targeted by a VTuber whose goal is to expose his evil doings, you could say, in trying to stoke the flames of the Yakuza once again. After losing his job, and obviously Adachi and Namba lose their jobs as well, Kasuga and company seek out answers. While seeking out answers, they learn that Joe Sawashiro escaped from prison, and he himself sets Kasuga on an errand to find his mother in Hawaii, who was a lover of Matsumi Arakawa. Meanwhile, after the events at Gaiden, Kiryu is on a mission in Hawaii to locate a woman of importance named Akane. As luck would turn out, Akane is also the same woman that Ichiban was set out to find. In Hawaii, Kiryu saves Kasuga from the police, and the pair team up to track down Akane-san, which ends up being quite the ordeal. That's the essential setup of the game, and the journey players go on to find Akane-san is filled with terrific characters, story beats, and of course, plot twists. The plots in most RPG games tend to be realistic and serious, and this game follows suit. However, some fans touted that the story this time around was unrealistic, which was kind of ironic, actually, because the US government recently charged the Yakuza leader with nuclear materials trafficking, something that, people said was unrealistic about the game. I really enjoyed the way in which this game was set up. The first half of the game, you get to explore Hawaii with Kiryu, Eric Tomizawa, and Chitose Fujinomiya on the search for Akane-san. You meet Chitose, who is the housekeeper for Akane-san, and Tomizawa, who tries to rob you at gunpoint as soon as you land in Hawaii. I really enjoyed both characters' developments. I thought they were both really well done. They have their own motivations, and the drink links you do later on really help flesh out their backstories, as well as their motivations and goals. I enjoyed Eric Tomizawa's defection from Yamai, and the way in which he struggles to be decisive throughout the game. I also enjoyed the fact that he can't see that he too was also a betrayer, something that Kasuga reminds him of in a later cutscene. I also really enjoyed Chitose's hidden agenda story and the struggle she has to respond to her duties, which she learns she actually wants. Chitose's Bond bingo can't be completed until near the end of the game, which is a testament to her growth as a character and to how she sees the party and how the party changes her over the course of the game. I really enjoyed that aspect of her character, and you never really felt ripped off by her character because of it. Kiryu's story is also fantastic, and it's ultimately heartbreaking to see him go through the stages of denial for cancer. Some people say denial, acceptance, whatever it is. The way that Kiryu thinks about his cancer, right? He's already accepted it, and he's kind of like dead on the inside in a way. In this game, he's much more soft-spoken and wise, you could say. He takes more of a guidance role for Ichiban, but he'll still step in when the time is right. You spend the first half of the game with Kiryu at your side, and then you reach the point where the cancer gets to him. It causes him to falter, and he ends up in the hospital. Prior and during this, Kiryu has already given up with his fight against cancer. He's ready to die. The second half of the game is remarkable in its melancholy as Kiryu returns to Japan. In Japan, Kiryu stays at Kasuga's apartment with Namba and Sonhee. What really got me at this point in the game was the bucket list, or the end note, as they call it in Japanese, mechanic. It was something I never expected, and it was very bittersweet, reminiscing on the history of the series. It was honestly heart-wrenching going around as Kiryu and reflecting on things for what could possibly be his final time. This is Kiryu's final outing. As a fan of the series, it was amazing having all these moments from the history of the series make a comeback. In particular, the more elaborate sub-story memories were incredible. And then to add more sadness to the equation, you get Kiryu and Date's life links. Meanwhile, as you're playing through this, Kiryu's stats are improving, which then unlocks new passives and combat abilities for his stances in combat. It was such a unique mechanic and such a heartbreaking experience. It made the second half of the game truly remarkable and memorable. Especially when you get shit like this, where after Hanawa dies and Kiryu reflects on his death, he says something along the lines of, "I'll be joining you soon." How can you hear that from a protagonist of 2 decades and not feel anything? There are a lot of characters in this game. The cast from RGG7 are there, as well as some new additions from 8. As most often is the issues with RPGs, it's hard to make a party of 4 when you have so many cool fucking characters. The way the game handles the party system is something I absolutely loved. The first half of the game, you get Kasuga, Kiryu, Tomizawa, and Chitose, which really allows the player a chance to enjoy and care for these characters. It helps build the relationships and make drives. It also gets you accustomed to their unique jobs and what they're good at and how they fit into your party as a whole. The job system returns in this game, albeit with way more jobs, and ways to inherit your skills from other jobs if you have a high enough bond. Once you get used to this party of 4, the game then removes Kiryu from you and provides Ichiban, Tomizawa, and Chitose with 2 new party member options, which are Namba and Adachi. Now you have 1 sitting out. I like this, as I didn't feel overwhelmed as to who I would have in my party. I sat Adachi out as a preferred Namba support-based magic homeless man kit, better than anything Adachi could do. Then I lost Namba to Kiryu's party in the second half. And in the second half is where you get your next party. So similar to what Final Fantasy VII Remake did years ago, the developers gave you a separate party to use with different characters for Kiryu. I really like this as it gave me an opportunity to use almost every character. It started with Namba and Sonhee, then you get Saiko, and lastly Joe, one of my all-time favorites. Now Kiryu is capped at 5, just like Ichiban was capped at 5 once it's out. Then like RGG0, the chapters will then flip-flop between the Kasuga party and the Kiryu party, as the story begins to weave all the strings together to a very satisfying conclusion. I really enjoyed the 2-party system, as I didn't want to choose just 4 of this very likable cast of characters. Every character, even the ones from 7, all had excellent character development. I still cared for them as much as I did the new ones, and nobody felt as if they were shoehorned in just to meet a quota. And then you get to Premium Adventure after you beat the game, and in Premium Adventure you have access to all your party members, and so making a party of 4 at that point was really challenging, as I loved all these characters. The sub-stories in this game are quite varied in the gameplay, which was honestly refreshing. There were numerous sub-stories that had unique mechanics only found in them, and nowhere else. It was a pleasant surprise, and I found it made the sub-stories more engaging. Not that any of them were ever really not engaging, because they were always engaging because of their stories, but in terms of gameplay, it just changed up the formula. For example, Kasuga begins working at a cafe for a day, and the player needs to memorize orders, talk to customers, and try to be a master waiter, and the game tries to trick you up by telling you the wrong picture or throwing you the wrong order, and it's just a really good way of changing up the style of play. Another example is when Kiryu becomes an action star or a stuntman, I guess you could say, and he has to dodge all these crazy exploding trucks on the road, and you're just bobbing and weaving in between trucks without trying to get hit. It's a movement-based sub-story, and it's really fucking cool. Another one they give you is the lemonade stand, right? You're trying to sell lemonade to people for this little boy, and so you have to walk around without spilling your tray of lemonade to a bunch of people that want lemonade within a certain time limit, otherwise it's no bueno. All these variety of sub-stories were fucking great, and I found it really freshened up the gameplay loop that the sub-stories had been stuck in for years. The stories were hilarious and fucking weird, which is what you get in a Like a Dragon game. The return of so many faces from 7 kept putting a smile on my face. I really enjoyed the return of Sojimaru. He gets 2 missions, which was fucking rad. The circus man, I don't remember his name, but the fucking tigers was back, but this time instead of tigers, he ended up activating 2 cranes, so it's the same kind of bullshit from the last game. The Sujimon professor obviously makes a triumphant return, and he brings a whole new gameplay mode mechanic with him. Instead of Gary Buster Holmes, we got Chitose Buster Holmes for Pound Mates, but then we still get Gary Buster Holmes for Dondoko Island. We got the Gondawara Patriarch again in a hilarious yet very heartfelt sub-story. The Onabara Vocational School folks are back. That's just all part of what makes this game so fucking wonderful. It's seeing all these characters return with more hijinks, more bullshit, more weirdness, and then you get to throw in even more new weirdos, like the fucking shaman guy summoning a storm. You get the competing rivalry between the coffee shop owners that sing that song that's gonna get stuck in your fucking head every time you call him on pound meats. And then you get the Nathan, the white guy who's obsessed with Japanese culture, and you're trying to film Ichiban doing stuff that are stereotypically Japanese, and it's kind of offensive. Then you get the new character, like the fucking bird, who you have to like carry in your head to find his mom. And then they elaborate on older characters like Nancy Chan, who you send to go on a mission to find love. Like, it's so fucking amazing, and it's so engaging, and it's just a perfect blend of old and new and funny sub-stories and then really serious sub-stories. The writing and the performances in this game, they're all so fucking good. Even the English in this game was very like a dragon, you could say. The amount of times I was sued by the enemies was excessive. Sometimes I wish they had a bit more variety and dialogue for the Sujimons, but nonetheless, it was still funny the thousandth time I heard it because that's what Americans do. They sue. As a non-American, this fits my mindset of an American very appropriately, and I'm assuming the devs thought the same thing as well. The English voices in the Japanese dub were solid as well. Just a few were a little rough around the edges. I'm still trying to figure out Bryce Fairchild, but whatever. It didn't ruin the experience for me. It just made it very unique. Before I move on to actual gameplay conversation, though, there are a few things I want to talk about, and those things are people, and they are Bryce Fairchild, Ebina, and Yutaka Yamai. Let's start with Yamai. What a great fucking character. From the moment you're introduced to Yamai, you know the man is business. Maybe it's the way he just yells Tomizawa all the time. Maybe it's his character design. Maybe it's his voice or his actions. But holy fuck, Yamai's just so goddamn great. I really like what they did with him in the story, and I really enjoyed the camaraderie, you could call it, that Ichiban forced him into. I enjoyed his whole shtick and how he set up his own gang and the fact that he just wants to hang with his mamas. It just fucking kills me. Maybe it's his lazy attitude or how he never puts his arms in his fucking coat sleeves. But this character is just so fucking special. There's just something about Yamai that is just so fucking meme-worthy. And it's so fucking good. Especially at the end, in talking about his character development. He actually gives away his fucking jacket. And you feel something for Yamai. And it's unreal. They take almost like this side character who's like a pseudo villain, not really like a lot of Yakuza characters are, and they create somebody so special and somebody so amazing that the audience, that you just fall in love with them. And it's so memorable. And I really hope that we get to see more of him in the future. It would be a shame if this guy was lost to this game. In terms of Yakuza villain canon, I found Ebina to be rather unremarkable. It's not to say that he wasn't a bad character by any means, but when you have all these crazy unique characters, especially when you got a character like Yamai in the same game, he just didn't really stand out. He wasn't that memorable. Even his final boss battle wasn't that crazy. It wasn't that memorable. It's just another shirtless fight, which this series is known for, which is fine. But if you want to talk about memorable villains, he kind of falls flat. I found, was it Ryo Aoki from the last game? He was kind of in the same boat. He was just the Bleach Japan guy. Again, kind of unremarkable, but even that guy I found was a lot more memorable than Ebina. Maybe that's just what happens when you split the villainy between Bryce Fairchild and Ebina, that it's hard to just spend all that time developing one when you have to develop both. But I found him to be averaged, Bryce Fairchild was a little more memorable, probably because he was a fucking cultist, which was pretty rad. And he's also an old man. You got to fight him in an underground cave full of nuclear waste. That's also kind of memorable. And you have to fight a fucking shark and a giant-ass squid to get to him. So, again, more memorable, more fucking what the fuck is this shit, which is what this series is, and I love it for that. But yeah, I know. And then I think he pulls out, if I remember correctly, he just pulls out fucking guns when you fight him. It's like, yeah, here's this old man cultist who gives like a fucking 40-minute monologue before you fight him, just to whip out some guns after he sends 2 waves of bad guys after you. Like, it's I don't know, that is memorable to me. And Ebina just, I don't know, going up that stupid Millennium Tower again, it's not the same. And then You know what? I think those boss fights, they're not bad. However, the best boss fights, if I had to pick, go to the Majima Daigo and Taiga fight and the Dwight Mendez shark fight. The best part about the Majima Daigo and Taiga fight was that they all used their original moves or moves that you've seen before from them, which is fucking cool. And they're the moves from the old games, which are obviously action games and not RPG games. So it's cool to see them translate into RPG moves like they did with Kiryu's entire set throughout the game. What was really cool though about the Majima Daigo and Taiga fight was how when you get them down to like 1 HP before you can kill them, they force you to go into, like, I call it the limit break mode, where Kiryu goes from RPG character to action character from the old games, and you just beat the shit out of them. I thought that was really cool, and the whole time you're beating the shit out of them, you're like inside this dome, and this dome is full of pictures and memories and voice lines from the characters in the past. And it was just so awesome seeing all these photos of these beloved characters. We all love Goro Majima. We all love Taiga. We all love Daigo. We love these characters, and you really get to see, look how all these characters change throughout the series. You see that in the fight at that one moment, and that is something that's gonna stick with me forever. It just reminded me of Kingdom Hearts 2, the last boss, when Sora's stuck in the black void and you have all those red laser beams trying to hit Sora, and Sora has to deflect them all, and you're mashing triangle the whole time. It reminded me of that, and that is just something that you'll always remember, and that's why that's like one of my favorite boss fights of all time. The Dwight Mendez shark fight is obviously not on that level, however, it is fucking sick. You get a fucking shark as a mechanic that will either A, sit on the edge of the boat and just murder any enemy that's in that zone, or B, it'll just fucking attack the boat and try and murder you. Like, that is a cool mechanic, and I honestly didn't think you'd be fighting the shark in the middle of the ocean. I expected Dwight to die to the shark, which was not necessarily the case at the end of it, but the outcome was still fucking great. And then when you return later on, like I said, when you go to fight Bryce Fairchild, you end up fighting a fucking shark, and you fight the actual shark. You're just fighting a fucking shark. Now, fighting animals is obviously nothing new to the Yakuza series, but it was pretty fucking cool just fighting a shark in the middle of the ocean, and then the giant squid. So yeah, those are some memorable bosses that I found in this game. Even the if you want to talk about memorable bosses, you get to Wong To, and he's not that memorable except his fucking song. It's in German or whatever. The title's German. I don't know off the top of my head. That song just goes so fucking hard. And again, it's another meme. It's another meme, and it's wonderful. So, excellent boss fights. They are fun. I love the interactability. I love the QTEs with them. The QTEs in this game barely do any damage, but I guess that's besides the point. You just get some cool ass shit happening in your game. But I've been yapping all this time, and I've barely talked about gameplay, so let's talk about some fucking gameplay, okay? By now, you've probably been watching my gameplay captured from the dungeons of the game, so it should be no surprise that it's an RPG turn-based game. It's back. I really enjoy the RPG elements from this game. However, this time around, they're a lot better. But before I elaborate, I'm going to go way back to when Mother was around. And by Mother, I mean Mother 2. And by Mother 2, I mean Earthbound, you English fucks. Mother 2 was way ahead of its time. In Mother 2, you live your life and you beat the shit out of everything with a baseball bat, yo-yo, frying pan, guns, shit you find around your house, things you buy at the corner store, things you buy at a sports store. The enemies are also everyday people. They're hippies, they're animals, they're concert goers, they're insects, they're rocks, they're fucking spiders. It's just all down to earth, very realistic. Nothing is really fantastical. The story and music are amazing, and it's just so fucking good. It's just so good being a human being and doing human being type shit, None of it impossible or unrealistic. Like a Dragon and Like a Dragon 8 is the same fucking thing. You're just a man and woman doing your everyday thing, fighting against everyday people, animals, or objects using ordinary things. You're a homeless man, that's your job. What do you have? An umbrella. What else? Fucking pigeons. Oh, you're a cabbie? What do you have? A steering wheel? A car battery? A blowtorch? How about the cab itself? Just fucking run them over as a super, I don't know. The creativity in this game is so fucking good. It makes me laugh. It just puts a huge fucking smile on my face. Oh, Kiryu's from an action game and not turn-based? Just let Joe Amon teach him a technique to break the entire genre and turn to the old games. Sick! I gotcha. I fucking love the combat system in this game. It's a lot better this time around. You no longer get murked trying to reach an enemy for an ability or an auto attack. Those disruptions are gone, thank Christ. You can now hit enemies into your teammates for bonus damage. You can then get a follow-up attack on that as well. All-out attacks from Persona say, what? How about the power of friendship from Ichiban that takes out almost half of the enemy's health bar? 6,000 damage. It's a fuck ton. The adjustments to the combat system were a welcome addition. They also gave you a movement ring, which really helped with positioning. In the last game, it was luck. Your positioning, it's chance. In this one, you can actively move your character around. And then you can see the arrows and directions of impacts and shit. So it really helps you coordinate your attacks. The active button prompts, I guess you can call it, are back in this game, which is sick. They throw some off-timed attacks at you quite often just to fuck up your button presses so you take full damage. Obviously, you hit the button on defense, you block it, you take way less damage. It's a good gameplay mechanic. It keeps you in the battle. All the special moves have their own button prompts, which add either more damage, bonus chances at side effects, all that good stuff. So it's a really good way of keeping you engaged during the combat instead of just watching things go burr. I really enjoyed all the characters and jobs in the game. I found some jobs to be better than others, especially jobs like the Kunoichi, which just so much fucking agility. I put Chitose as a Kunoichi, and the agility accessories on her just made her absolutely broken. She was getting in 2 turns before an enemy would get even 1 turn. She had a few AoE attacks with that just wiped the floor. It was just fucking awesome. And then with Joe and his, I think it's not Hitman for it's Gangster, his Gangster class, I just put a fuck ton of attack on him. And with his weapon, I put a bunch of attack shit on the brand. He was like, his auto attacks were fucking destroying enemies. And his follow-up attacks were hitting like 600 on a non-crit. It was fucking wild. Jungi Han, too, same thing. But what was cool about his job, and I'm talking about the unique jobs, obviously, but what was really cool about his Hitman job is that depending on whether you had a back attack or a front attack, you would get different effects. Obviously, his abilities changed for back attacks and were way better, but it was really cool to see an actual job benefit from a back attack versus that normally being confined to the auto attacks, I guess you can call them. Another job that was fucking rad was when I switched Namba to a Desperado, and just watching him follow up with gunshots all the time was fucking meme-worthy. It was so funny. But yeah, what's also cool, as I mentioned before, is that when you switch jobs, you get stats from these jobs that apply permanently to your character, and then you switch jobs, you get new stats from those jobs, and then you level up those jobs, and you get new perm stats for your character. But you can then equip abilities from other jobs with your current job. So if your job had any shortcomings, like let's say Desperado, and you wanted more healing from Homeless Man, which is what I did, I would put the bottle service on there so that way my Namba could still heal while also dishing out a fuck ton of damage. So that was really cool. I remember in the last game, around the time you hit the Coliseum before the Kiryu fight, I got absolutely walled by difficulty spike. It's quite a noticeable jump. So I had to grind the arena for a few hours. I think I gained at least 10 levels before I could beat Kiryu. And then Kiryu was, I found, to be the gatekeeper of the game. Once you beat him, you're almost done the game and you had to go fight Aoki at the end. But I found that was a bit of a gatekeep, and that you had to grind for that. So I was hoping that in this game there wouldn't really be a grind wall, because that was a little frustrating. It took the momentum out of my sales. But I don't know if it's because of my playstyle, but I did every sub-story as soon as I could. Anytime a collectible would show up on the map, I'd just walk around and try and collect it. All the chats I did, all the Bond Bingo shit I did as soon as I could. All the memories I did as soon as I could. There were clowns outside of a shop blocking it, so I would go wipe out those clowns. But doing this, I found myself to be quite over-leveled in some cases. Like my Kiryu party ended up being way higher level than it needed to be, whereas my Ichiban party was roughly the same level because of the way it does the divide at the half point of the game. But I never found I had to grind, but maybe it's because I was subconsciously doing that grinding as I was walking around Hawaii and Japan. I didn't use the Segway much. I just fought almost every guy I saw on my way to my destination, so I probably avoided such a wall like that. I guess if you could argue it had one. So I honestly don't know if there was a wall, but just me playing the game naturally, like I play all games with side content, I found myself not needing to grind. Some fights were still fucking hard, especially the enemies that had the little stars above their head. They're usually a couple levels higher than you. And so those fights required some input. They were challenging. A few of them I wiped a couple times on each of them until I got stronger. But what's cool is that when the guys are really shitty, you can just hit R2 for SmackDown, and then you just auto wipe them. You get, I think, 0.5 experience, and you get a little bit less gold or gold. You get a little less yen or US dollars. So it's fine. It was a lot of fun though, and I didn't find there was that grind wall. So this game has a couple of procedurally generated dungeons, the Hawaiian Haunt and Yokohama Underground. They're better this time around than the dungeons from the last game, but I still found the dungeons to be meh in the regards, especially after Persona 3 and Persona 3 Reload, right? That's procedurally generated Tartarus. And I'm going to make a comparison to that here because I was kind of playing that game at the same time for a little bit. And one thing that bothered me about these dungeons in Like a Dragon was you'd go through these doors and it'd stop your momentum. You'd open the door and then you have to restart the run button and then in order to continue your momentum. But if it was like a dead end, you had to turn around, those doors fucking close on their own, like automatically, and then you'd have to like reopen them again. And I found in terms of speed, it was slowing me down a bit, which was a little frustrating. That's a nitpick. And then another nitpick I had for the dungeons was that if you found the exit, but I didn't find the guy I wanted to rescue, or I wanted to kill more ads on the floor, or I wanted to find more treasure, I would explore until I had everything 100% explored in these dungeons. But then you'd have to run all the way back, especially through those fucking closed doors. And so I just wish there was a button that you could hit the next floor. And that's what I'm going to make the reference to Persona 3, because in Persona 3 Reload, as soon as you find the exit of the floor, if you go back to explore the rest of the floor, you can just hit start, go next floor. You don't have to walk all the way back to the exit because you already found it. So I found if it had that, it would have sped up the process, especially the grinding in the end game. To get Ichiban to level 70, you pretty much have to play the underground dungeon at 55 because there's nothing else unless you pay for the New Game Plus and the Big Swell DLC, which was I think 27 Canadian, and I didn't have that, so I just grinded and it was slow just doing the doors and shit. So I just wish it was just a bit faster to speed it up. But those are nitpicks. These dungeons though have some fantastic bonus boss fights, I guess. You have the Onomichio Rangers, which were fucking rad. I wasn't expecting that. It's sick. As well as the Joe Amon fight. Those were awesome. I don't know if you've seen it in my gameplay. I got absolutely walled against the Onomichio Rangers, especially since my Joe was a lower level. Or I can't remember if I had Joe or if I had Jungi, but one of them, I think it was Jungi Han. He gets absolutely decimated. He's under leveled, and then the rest of my party's at level. And then I get to the Amon fight, and at the Amon fight, I have my best of the best, so that was a lot better. I wish there was more super bosses. I guess I don't know if these are really super bosses, but I wish there was more cool hidden bosses like this in the game, like a lot of JRPGs have, like post-game bosses. Which is unfortunate because I thought these bosses were fucking excellent design, and they were definitely a lot easier than the final bosses of the game. But you know what? These were fucking rad. And Joe Amon definitely easier in this game than he was in Gaiden, the Man Who Changed His Name. He was fucking hard in that game. But you know what? Still cool to have him. I just wish there were more of these super bosses or secret bosses you can fight. Apart from the main game, this game also has a terrific sub-games as always. I'll talk about the mini-games before I go into the two other big game modes they added. The mini-games are fun. Sicko Snap is just a silly Pokemon Snap style game that made me laugh my ass off. It's that RGG twist on it that makes it so fucking silly. Crazy Delivery is fun. Reminded me of Crazy Taxi, which I'm sure is what they're going for, especially since Sega announced they're making a full AAA fucking Crazy Taxi game. The new Tinder dating minigame Mismatch made me laugh my ass off multiple times, especially some of the profiles you can make and the made up shit that Ichiban puts as the quotes when he quotes himself fucking kills me. I also got cock blocked by an actual chicken, which again, that RGG humor is fucking there. If the chicken's not running your fucking Ichiban Kasuga concession stand, then he's fucking cock blocking you in this game. It's amazing. it's just an excellent addition to the minigame canon that you'd get. Now they have two big new game modes in this one. They got Dondoko Island and the Sujimon Battle League. The Sujimon League is fucking hilarious. They put in a gacha mechanic that you can use your US dollars to buy tickets to get more Sujimon, like a mobile game, and it's fucking hilarious. I can't believe they even put that in there. And you can pull on different banners too, which is fucking stupid. It's great. I love it. And then obviously it has heavy references to Pokemon. It made it super fun and silly and laugh out loud. It's amazing that they're not getting investigated because Power World's getting investigated by Nintendo. It's fucking wonderful. They even have raids and shit like that. Scarlet and Violet have Pokemon raids, but it runs like shit in Scarlet and Violet. It actually runs better in this game, which is sad and funny. But you know what? It's got gym badges. It's got gym battles. It's got the Elite Four. And it's got the fucking Elite Four champion that you fight. It's literally got everything in a Pokemon game. But it's like a side mission throughout this entire game. It's amazing. The whole quest line is fucking silly, and the simple RPG, like 3-on-3 Pokemon style gameplay was fucking great. If you beat the main story first, like I did, you actually unlock a key to use Resurrected Dragon Sujimon, which turns this whole game mode into a fucking trivial mess. Otherwise, I had Pleatherface, and Pleatherface would have a 10-star attack, or a 10, I guess, SP attack at like max stars. I would just like fucking hit 600. It's so fucking good. And then furthermore, you have a Sujimancer class or job that lets you use your actual Sujimon in the actual game. It's unreal. It's so creative. I fucking love it. And then there's the second game mode, which is Dondoko Island. I wrapped up the game and majority of all of my side content in around 62 hours when I played this game. That's with 3 hours originally spent on Dodoko when it first introduces you to that. Before you make the YouTube video there. It's an Animal Crossing game, and I obviously dropped another 10 hours into this mode when I was in Premium Adventure to get the 5-star resort. I'm not an Animal Crossing fan. The last one I played was on the 3DS, and even then I'm sure all those villagers are fucking dead by now. But it doesn't matter. This game mode is fucking addicting. There's just something so satisfying about building a town. Like, you're building an island, right? But building a town with shops and activities, and then inviting people to my island so I could steal their money basically by forcing them to go to all this shitty stuff I put up there, and then it's just good, It's just something so satisfying about building a town with shops and activities, inviting people to my island to steal their money, beating up pirates and animals, building a fuck ton of shit, decorating my island, fishing, bug catching, running commercials, and just all around landscaping. It's so fucking satisfying and addicting. Even after I got the 5 stars, I was still building shit. I was still improving my island, and I was still discovering new mini stories that they have post 5-star, which is wild. They didn't even have to do that, but here they are. Oh, you got 5-star resort, more content on Dondoko Island. They could have just ended it right there. That's like 15 hours I've dumped into this game mode, and they're still adding new content, which is fucking unreal for a mini game, I guess you can call it, or like a sub game. It's unreal the level of depth that RGG Studio went when making Dondoko Island. The gameplay was tight and it was really easy. You just swing your bat to get resources, you hold R2 to fish with your spear, you catch bugs with a fucking net. But it's just so fucking good, and it's so well made, and it's so deep. They didn't have to go this hard for the minigame, but they did, and it fucking worked. It was never frustrating, and it was always just, let's do one more day, or let's just get one more building, or let's just clear this out one more time so it's cheaper. It's wonderful. And then they added a farm with your Sujimon to help kind of automate some of the process, and they have a lot of rare materials you can get on there and gold trash bags. Oh, it was fucking great. I think it would be really cool if they would make a standalone version of this game somehow, but it still had like all the visitors from the RGG games that would come see your island, and you could put them in hotels and shit. I really like that aspect. I don't know if they could somehow combine like the business management game they had from number 7 with this to make like a full-fledged like $50 downloadable game. I think that'd be sick. It would make bank, and I think it would give Nintendo a run for their money. In conclusion, there's probably a lot more I could say about this game, but I've been yapping for 33 minutes now. I may have even forgotten some things that I wanted to say about this game, but I'm going to leave you with this. A game like a Dragon Infinite Wealth is a complete fucking package. It only comes around once in a while. It's a game where I spent multiple dinners watching long-ass cutscenes. It's a game where I spent lots of time laughing out loud, lots of time smiling, and a lot of time depressed, sad, and maybe crying. It's a game whose greatest strength is its genius writing, its characterization, its development of its characters that are so well loved. It's the music that accompany all this. It's the vocal performances from the guys who've been there since the beginning and the newcomers. It's the gameplay. It's all unrivaled in quality. They didn't take any conceits in quality. They delivered a true fucking gaming package for full price. It is a fucking amazing game. It continues the fantastic RGG slash Yakuza series, and it pushes it even further. In my opinion, it's the greatest game in the Like a Dragon series. It's also selling really well in the West, which is awesome to see. It takes the old and it provides it a beautiful ending, a very heartfelt ending. And that those, if you stick through the 60 hours like I did, and you're gonna be satisfied, you're gonna be content. The ending is fucking amazing. It's not cheap, it's not bullshit, it's a fucking good ending. It sets up the future of the series so beautifully for both our characters. It's an all-time favorite for me. Put it up there with The Witcher 3, Mass Effect 2. Like a Dragon 8 Infinite Wealth is a masterpiece. The final trophy, I'm not going to tell you what it's called, but the final trophy you unlock for beating the story left me speechless. It made me reflect on what I had just experienced, and it made me wonder what will be next. I don't know what will be next, and how RGG Studio can top what they just created. All I know is that this developer is one of the greatest developers around. I look forward to what's next, whether it's another Judgment or a new RGG game. Whatever it is, it's in good hands. Like a Dragon 8 Infinite Wealth is easily a Monte.